next episode of the Ballhawk Sports Podcast. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I appreciate you being here. Today's episode, we have opening day week. It was a great week of baseball. It's great to see baseball back, be able to watch games every night or afternoon or whenever it was. It was just great to have baseball back and be able to see the players out there getting to root for my team, the Yankees. They had a great weekend, and then a not so great week after that. But still, let's get right into it. I want to start off by shouting out some players that got extensions, which is always great to see. We love seeing players get paid. So just starting off, Ketel Marte, second baseman for the Arizona Diamondbacks, got a 6-year, $116.5 million extension with an $11.5 million player option in 2031. This replaces his extension of 5 years, $76 million that he signed in 22, and it has incentives that can reach up to $149.5 million. Now, no, that's a lot of figures, so yep, put it, you guys. But basically, he got a raise and then a couple of years added on at the end of his deal. Ideally, if he plays at the level he's been playing at, this is a bargain for the Diamondbacks. But he is already over 30. He has had some injury issues, which is what kept him from really being able to complete his MVP type season last year, as he was tearing the cover off the ball before he had an injury that ended his season prematurely. I believe it was in August that it happened. But a good deal for the Diamondbacks, and great to see Marte get paid. Someone else who was just paid was Garrett Crochet, who he got a 6-year, $170 million contract extension with an opt-out right before the last year of the season in 2030, after the 2030 season. Pretty straightforward deal. Good job by the Red Sox being able to get this done after trading for him. They clearly worked probably all spring training to get this done in some parts of the offseason. So it's nice to have them finalize this. But they weren't done there. Christian Campbell, who broke camp as the team's second baseman, also has experience at some other positions, really could be a utility guy for them. He's 22 years old. He's a rookie. He signed an 8-year, $60 million contract extension with a $19 million club option in 2033, with a $4 million buyout and a $21 million club option in 2034. That basically buys out all of his pre-arb years, all of his arbitration years, plus his first 2 to up to 4 years of free agency. That's a big deal from a guy who was the minor league player of the year last year. He was able to break camp with the team when it wasn't expected of him, and has been playing pretty decently. He definitely doesn't look overmatched in the first games this season. So it's really nice that he's able to get paid. Ceddanne Rafaela, he had a similar situation last year. I believe he's their center fielder right now. Similar age, similar contract. I think he got 7 for $50 potentially. I don't remember the exact numbers on that, so don't quote me. But something the Red Sox like to do, sign their young guys. But the big story for me, at least in the contract extension situation, is that Jackson Merrill, the shortstop turned center fielder for the San Diego Padres, signed a 9-year, $135 million contract extension with a $30 million club option in 2035, which will convert to a player option if Merrill has a top 5 MVP finish. And the contract has a max value of $204 million, meaning there's some incentives in there. This is a big deal. Jackson Merrill would have won Rookie of the Year last year if he had not been behind Paul Skeens in the class. He had a phenomenal year last year. But he batted over 290, had a slug over 500. Really just a really good year for, I believe, one of the youngest players in the majors last year. I think for me the most interesting thing part about his year was that he didn't really take advantage of his speed. He has above average to top of the line speed, and he didn't really steal as much as I personally would have expected for someone with that kind of stealing ability. But he operates in the middle of that lineup. Probably also with a lot of non-speed around him, I guess is the nice way to put it. He probably gets held up on the base paths a little bit much for where he hits, because he does hit behind like the Manny Machados and the older players in their lineup that happen to bat in the middle. Bogarts as well. Jake Cronenworth, those type of guys. So it's not surprising, but very happy for him getting paid. They basically bought out his first 3 to 4 years, and I really like that they put in that the club option converts to a player option if he's a top MVP finish. Basically saying like, hey, if you do right by us, we'll do right by you. And a $30 million club option is a lot. It's a large club option. I mean, you saw the one that Marte got was only $11.5 million, and I believe he finished top 5 in MVP last year. So it's they're rewarding a young player who, in quotes, after signing the extension, was very happy to be able to stay as a Padre. He obviously enjoys himself over in San Diego with that club, so good for them getting to lock up one of the better young MLB players. But that is all of the extensions that got signed. I know a lot of people were hoping that Vladimir Guerrero would re-sign with the Blue Jays. I don't expect that to happen. I expect Guerrero to go into free agency without a contract. I would probably at this point say that I do expect him to re-sign, but I do expect him to hit free agency to maximize his value at this point. But moving on, let's go around the league with our opening week overview. Some standout performances. One of my favorite stories coming out of this opening week of games was Carson Kelly, the catcher for the Cubs, hit for the cycle on the 31st. It was the first Cubs cycle in 32 years. It was Mark Grace hit one in 1993. Excuse me. Kelly did it by homering in the 4th, having a 2-run single in the 5th, a double in the 6th, a triple in the 8th. He's the 3rd player ever with a cycle and 2 walks in a game. Joe Gordon for the New York Yankees did it in 1940, and Mickey Cochran did it for the Philadelphia Athletics A's in 1937. Now, it's really nice for a guy who himself after the game said that he's come a triple short of the cycle before. I believe he even said that this was only like his 3rd or 4th cycle in his career. You know, catchers aren't fast guys, and he is, I believe he's 31 years old now, so he's not as fast as he once was. And even then, probably wasn't that fast to begin with. But the ball ricocheted his way when he hit it to the opposite field, to right center field, off the wall. In the A's minor league facility out there they're playing in, and he was able to get it done. So congrats to him, and really nice to see. Some just regular old standouts for their performances. Eugenio Suarez, a third baseman for the Diamondbacks, currently batting .250 with a .375 on-base percentage and a 1,000 slug percentage. He has 5 homers, 11 RBIs, 7 runs, and a stolen base on this very young season. He did just hit the game-winning grand slam against the Yankees 2 nights ago. So he's just really carrying this Diamondbacks team early in the season and starting off exactly where he left off at the end of last season. But moving on to Mackenzie Gore, he had a phenomenal opening day, despite the Nationals fumbling it at the end for him, not being able to get him the win. But he went 6 innings, 0 runs, no walks, 1 hit, and 13 Ks versus a Philadelphia Phillies team that's expected to be very good and has a very good lineup. His follow-up, which happened yesterday on the 2nd, versus Toronto, was not as good. He went 5, 9 hits, 3 runs, 2 walks, 5 Ks. Not great, not a terrible start. But it was really nice to see him be able to put everything together. There was some talks of like the Shadows doing something weird at the stadium that day and how he was able to take advantage of that. Whether that's the truth or not, he still did it. He still struck out 13 guys over 6 innings in a Phillies team that is playoff caliber and a very good lineup. He is a lefty, so he does match up a little bit better with Philly than other teams do. But still, great performance by him. Hopefully he can continue to build off of that and improve on that start that he had in Toronto. Another player that's playing very well so far is Kyle Tucker. He's batting .324 with a .444 on base and a .784 slug. He's got 4 homers, 11 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, and 10 runs. That means he is tied for the league lead in RBIs. I believe he leads the league in runs scored. He is an opportunistic base stealer, so it's nice to see that he's gotten his opportunities because he doesn't have top-end speed. I don't even know if he actually has average speed, but he's very opportunistic. He's also taller, so that helps out as well. But the Cubs getting a big boost from their big offseason addition in Kyle Tucker, who is continuing where he left off last year before he got injured. But in big single games, we have Ellie De La Cruz went 4 for 5 with 2 home runs and 7 RBIs on the 31st. Ironically, which I'll get into later, it was the first day that he used the Torpedo Bats, which were made infamous or famous or however you want to say about it by the Yankees over the weekend against the Brewers. He did try out the Torpedo Bat, and he did just completely pop off. But great day for him. I believe he also stole a base, so just a very complete game for Ellie De La Cruz. And 2 other players that were able to reach great feats were Aaron Judge hit 3 homers and 8 RBIs in a single game on the 29th when the Yankees won 20-9 over the Brewers. And then Ivan Herrera, a catcher for the Cardinals, also hit 3 home runs, had 6 RBIs in a game on the 2nd. So big power displays and big games from those 2 players. Some more pitching that they pitched. Some guys pitched really well so far. Nathan Eovaldi, he's made 2 starts already. 15 innings pitched, a 1-0 record. 17 strikeouts, no walks, 7 hits, and a 1.20 ERA. I believe he's only let up 2 earned runs in those 15 innings. And this was all capped off by his complete game on the 1st of April versus Cincinnati, where he went 9. Completely dominated them. Really impressive for a guy that has an injury history and can sometimes get his pitch count up a little bit, to be completely under control with no walks in the season so far, and being able to dominate a good offensive team like Cincinnati and throw a complete game, which is very rare for nowadays. But another pitcher that had a great game after not having a very good first start was Zach Gallen, who just went 6 2/3 innings, gave up 3 hits, had 13 Ks against the Yankees at Yankee Stadium last night on the 2nd. He really had his knuckle curve working for him. If I'm not mistaken, I think he got 6 or 7 on the knuckle curve alone, which is just absurd. The Yankees were swinging out of their bootstraps for that pitch. So really nice to see him bounce back and show the potential of what he can be. I mean, this was a guy that was a top 5 Cy Young finisher 2 years ago. So hopefully he's able to continue this and have a great season leading into his free agency year this offseason. Another guy who pitched very well is Jack Leiter, former top prospect and top pick for the Rangers. He had 10 innings pitched in 2 starts, gave up 6 hits, 1 walk, 10 Ks. He's 2-0, so 2 wins, good for him. He did leave his start on the 2nd at 70 pitches with a blister on his throwing hand. So they're going to monitor that. He might, get his start pushed a little bit if the blister doesn't react very well. But they're not worried about it. They did pull him out of precaution. At 70 pitches, he could have gone another 2 innings, and it would have been great for his confidence, because he really he got roughed up a little bit last year. But as I mentioned in my opening day bold predictions and safe bets episode, he changed up his pitch mix, and that's clearly paying off for him so far this season. It'll be nice to see how the league adjusts to him and how he adjusts to the league, but for now, props to Jack Leiter. But in my relief pitcher standout for the week, it was Jason Adam, the setup man for the San Diego Padres. They acquired him at the trade deadline last year from the Tampa Bay Rays. He went 4 1/3 innings pitched. He had 2 walks, 7 Ks, no hits, and 3 holds. I believe that was in 3 games or 4 games. I believe it was in 4 games. Apologies. So just doing his thing as a great setup man over there in San Diego. And then, speaking of relievers, a converted reliever from last year, who is now a starter, Chris Buwick, who, if you don't know who he is, he had a great year last year. He was coming off of, I believe it was Tommy John surgery last year. The Royals decided to keep him in the bullpen, let him get some confidence, as he got roughed up a little bit when he debuted a few years ago before getting hurt. But they decided to convert him back to a starter. He was one of the reasons why they were so willing to move off Brady Singer in the Jonathan India trade. So it was really nice to see him reward that with 6 innings, 3 hits, 2 walks, 8 Ks. just a dominating performance. And the Royals got something going over there with their lefty starters. Bubik and Reagan's really could be something special out there. But the last guy I have for you guys is Tommy Edman. He's been playing all over the place, shortstop, second base, center field. For the Dodgers, batting .290 with 303 on base, 677 slug. He's got 4 homers, which is not typical for him, so in a little bit of a hot streak right now. 7 RBIs, 1 stolen base, 6 runs, just the ultimate utility man. Just a really big boost for that team to have. This year, they can plug him and play him anywhere in the lineup, on the field. Don't matter. That guy's going to play. He's just a good baseball player. But moving on now, I want to get into some injury updates. I'm going to run through them as quickly as possible. I'm not a medical expert, so don't quote me on any of these things. This is all just my own reporting on what's been put out there. So if anything is incorrect, I apologize, but I'm going to do my best. So starting off with Max Scherzer, he left his start on the 29th with the thumb issue, which was bothering him towards the end of the spring training. So he got 2 cortisone shots in his thumb on Monday. Was it the 31st? He's supposed to possibly begin throwing Friday the 4th. The thumb has bounced back better than expected. It's not known yet if they want him to take a rehab start or not, or if they're going to bring him back when he's eligible. When would he be eligible? The 13th or the 14th or the 15th, something like that. But they're encouraged with how the thumb has bounced back so far. Spencer Strider, starting pitcher for the Braves, coming off of the internal brace surgery, which is, if you aren't aware, the other option other than Tommy John surgery, the alternative option to Tommy John surgery. It's a newer procedure, but it's supposed to help you bounce back and gain back strength in that elbow quicker. He struck out 6, allowing 1 earned run on 2 hits and 1 walk in 3 innings. During his rehab start, he got his pitch count up to 60, which was really good. They want to get his pitch count up to the 75-85 range before he makes a start in the majors. So they're probably looking at another 1 or 2 starts, probably 2 starts max, before getting back. So he will get back by like mid to late April, which is really good for the Braves. They need it after the week they've had. But he is a dominating pitcher, so it'll be really nice to see him get back into the game. Brandon Woodruff, starting pitcher for the Brewers, he threw 51 pitches in a simulated game Tuesday. He has another simulated game scheduled probably in 5 or 4 days, so that'll probably come over the weekend at some point. Then he's supposed to go on a rehab assignment. They'll probably also want to build him up as well. Now he's coming off of right shoulder surgery, so they might be a little bit more cautious. Expect him back probably late April, maybe even early May, depending on how the rehab assignment goes, which will obviously depend. That'll be a better indicator of when he's expected back, how he does on the rehab assignment. So we'll keep an eye on that. Second baseman for the Detroit Tigers, Gleyber Torres, has an oblique strain. It is expected to keep him out longer than the 10 days. If you're not familiar with oblique strains, they typically take a few weeks to recover from. Being a hitter, it won't be as extreme a recovery or as long as a recovery as a pitcher would. A pitcher needs to build back up the strength because they're using that arm so much more than a batter is. So he'll be able to recover quicker than some guys we'll get into later that have oblique injuries and are pitchers. But one of the freak injuries that happened over the weekend was Colton Cowser. He is down for 6 to 8 weeks minimum with a fractured left thumb that he got sliding into first base. Surgery, a possibility, but it's not known yet if it will be needed. They will rest up that thumb and hope that it heals on its own. But basically, if you're not familiar, when you slide into the base, you got to touch the base. So he most likely went, if this is the base and this is his hand, he slid and he hit the base with his thumb here, and then it just, the pressure of the base, because the base doesn't have much give to it, just the pressure of it just sometimes hurts the thumbs. That's why you see a lot of guys wearing the sliding gloves, because it keeps your fingers tight like this, so that when they're sliding in, they're doing this and they're not letting that thumb fly, because the thumb can hook even the base, and you hook the base, and then it's gone. It's just gone. So unfortunate for him sliding into first base and having to miss that much time. But that will allow Heston Kjerstad to get some run out there in right field in his stead. And I believe they also called up Dylan Carlson from AAA to fill in that outfield spot as well. Josh Young, the third baseman for the Texas Rangers, he had some neck stiffness. He's expected to only need the minimum 10 days. They're basically just resting him. And his return date is right at the end of his 10-day stint, which is the 8th. They might hold him out a little bit longer, but it's just precautionary, so nothing to worry about too much there, which is good because he's a guy that's been hurt a lot the last few years, and they're really relying on him to hopefully. He's got a great bat. He's got an average to possibly above average glove as well, so it'll be imperative on him to remain healthy to be able to contribute to the Rangers this year. But someone else who had an oblique strain is Josh Lau, the outfielder for the Tampa Bay Rays. Similar to Torres, he's supposed to miss a few weeks, not be a minimum stay, but just rest, and then seeing how it recovers, we'll be able to tell on that. But getting to the pitcher that had the oblique strain, Sean Manaea is still having problems with his right oblique. He has been shut down for another 2 weeks from throwing. He got a platelet-rich plasma injection, which is supposed to stimulate healing in the area. Not exactly sure how it works per se. Like I said, I'm not a medical professional. But I believe the idea is that they inject the platelet-rich plasma into the bloodstream or into the body in the affected area, and then it helps to just stimulate your active plasma, and the platelets to like jumpstart them basically. So he's been shut down for at least 2 weeks from throwing. I would think that he would have to fully build back up because he didn't get fully built up in spring training. So probably a mid to late May at the earliest would be a return time for him. But someone who had it a little bit worse, Reynaldo Lopez, he underwent arthroscopic surgery on his right shoulder on the 1st. There hasn't been an update on the severity and return timetable. The surgery was kind of exploratory to see if there was any structural damage. He had a good amount of inflation, so the return timetable is unknown at this point. It's interesting because the Braves need all the help they can get right now. They're not starting off well. So losing out on Lopez, who had a really good year last year and was expected to be one of their 5 guys that got rolled out there every 5 days. Big loss to the Braves, and unfortunately we don't know when they will get him back. But for the Brewers, Aaron Savale strained his hamstring in his start against the Yankees. Minor injury. They do want him to throw one rehab start before returning. He's expected to get back on the mound on the 8th. So gets back on the mound on the 8th. He's probably looking at like a late April return after making a rehab start, or possibly 2. It'll be interesting to see what they do there, but obviously it's early in the season. They're trying to take it slow and steady and keep him healthy. But that is all the injury updates that I have for you guys. So now we're going to move on to some standout team performances. Starting it off with, where else are you going to start off with in baseball right now? The LA Dodgers are 8-0. They swept the Tigers, the Braves, and in the Tokyo Series, they swept the Cubs. So they are 8-0, leading the NL West. They looked really good, with like they always have, timely hitting. They do potentially have an issue with Roki Sasaki. He's had some control issues, which if you have done any research into him, that is a problem that he has had. He did not have a great start against the Tigers. He had a better start against the Cubs, but he went an inning and 2/3, I believe, and he threw like 60 pitches, had like 4 walks. It wasn't a good start. He's not had a good start to his career, but the potential is still there. They just got to rein in that control and get him to be able to throw the ball where he wants to. But the Dodgers bullpen dominant as expected. The lineup's getting it done. It's a deep lineup, not a lot of holes. And Ohtani's being Ohtani. I believe he hit the walk-off homer on the second to win the game against the Braves, who we'll get into later. But the Padres are not making it easy for them already. They started their season 7-0 by sweeping 4 games against the Braves and then also sweeping 3 games against the Guardians. Now, they have looked really good. They had some timely hitting in the first game on opening day to be able to come back and win that game. And then they basically dominated with good pitching, good hitting the rest of their games. I mean, Cease had a great start out his last time. Randy Vasquez had a nice start for them. So it's Michael King bounced back really well in his last start after opening day. It was a little shaky for him. He's another guy that has some control issues, and that can hurt him in the long run. But they're looking good. Their offense is getting it done without needing the long ball, which is always good to see. But great on them, keeping the pressure on the Dodgers, and already trying to make sure that the Dodgers aren't able to run away with it. But those two teams in the NL West, not to be outdone, the San Francisco Giants are 5-1. They just swept the Astros after taking 2 of 3 from the Reds opening day weekend. Their games against the Astros were very impressive. They basically just pitched better than the Astros, and they got enough hitting. Logan Webb pitched great. Landon Raup pitched great after winning the 5th spot for them. Pure domination from the pitching side of things, and then getting good hitting as well. Another team that's not gonna tear the cover off the ball, hitting homers like the Giants or like the Dodgers would, but the Padres and the Giants they're gonna get their hits. They're gonna pitch well, pitch to contact as well. And then the Giants bullpen, sneaky good. I mean, the Padres get some attention for the acquisitions they made last year in their bullpen. Same for the Dodgers. But the Giants, they've developed a good bullpen from internal guys. So really nice to see. But going over to the American League, the Toronto Blue Jays went 5-2. They swept the Nationals they swept the Nationals after splitting the opening weekend series with the Orioles. They had 4 games with them. It was a weird opening weekend for them, in my opinion. You know, they would get blown out and then blow out and then get blown out and then get it done. So it's interesting. I mean, Scherzer needing to leave his start early, not what you want to see. You also don't want to see Jose Berrios get roughed up the way he did on opening day, but he did bounce back against the Nationals in his last start. So, you know, their offense looks good. Andres Jimenez looks great for them. Great addition so far. I believe they have him batting 4th, and he already has 3 homers, which from a guy who's not known for his homers, that's great. You love to see that. But good on them being able to, after splitting with the Orioles, getting to sweep the Nationals, take care of business, and lead the AL East. But moving over to the West, the Texas Rangers also started 5-2. They took 2 out of 3 from the Reds after taking 3 of 4 from the Red Sox on opening weekend. Really, the story here is good pitching and enough hitting. Against the Reds, they won their last 2 games 1-0. One of those being the Nathan Eovaldi complete game shutout. But still, from a team with a lot of injuries to their pitching staff, what Jack Lehrer's been able to do, what Nathan Eovaldi's been able to do, what Jacob deGrom did in his start as well. Really nice to see, because I think that those bats will pick up, and it won't be 1-0 wins. It'll be 7-0 wins. But we'll see what happens there. But really good start for them, and putting themselves in a good position after the first week. But now, moving on to my team duds of the week. We have the biggest dud of them all, the Atlanta Braves, starting off 0-7, getting swept by the Padres and the Dodgers. Now, look, I understand that Ronald Acuna is what drives this team. He brings the energy. He's a leader. He's really the do-it-all guy that glues that very, hit or miss offense together by being a consistent force. And without that offense is kind of just run stagnant. Personally, I don't think Matt Olson is a guy that can carry an offense. He's a guy that complements the guy carrying the offense, as he did 2 years ago when Acuna was carrying, and then he just drove him home with getting good pitches. But because he's been able to be the focus of other teams, he's had a rougher time of it the last since Acuna got injured, basically. And then same for like Michael Harris, shouldn't be the top of a lineup. Great glove, but only an average bat, so not really a setup guy. Orlando Arcia is having such a bad time out there that he was rested. I say that with air quotes, by his manager, Snicker, in the Dodgers series. Just they let the backup play instead of him. He didn't have a good year last year after being an All-Star the year before. So I do look at them as being a spot where a young player, not a young player, but a shortstop can get traded there. I think like if the Blue Jays end up out of it, Bo Bichette is a great fit there. Otherwise, we'll see what happens. But I think that they need a shortstop. I thought they needed a shortstop. I thought they were a great fit for Willy Adames, but they obviously didn't want to spend this offseason. So, they are where they are. But especially with Jurickson Profar being out, it's on guys like Jared Kelenic, Stuart Fairchild, who they acquired from the Reds, Michael Harris II, as I said, to step up and fill the shoes before Acuna can return, who I believe they said is only doing some light baseball activity, so he's probably a month or two away at the very least. But another dud that we have here over in the American League is the Red Sox. The Red Sox, they like I said with the Rangers, they only took one of the 4 games from the Rangers, and they split with the Orioles. They have the 3rd game of that series coming up on the 3rd, which is today. So maybe they can pull out of the dust or dust themselves off and go there. The big story coming out of them is that Rafael Devers is not taking to his full-time DH role very well, striking out a lot, not getting a lot of hits, not being able to find his rhythm. I don't know if I've said it before here, but I know that being a full-time DH is a skill set. It is not for everyone. Some players need the being able to just not need to think about what they're doing hitting the ball and be able to go out there on the field and get ingrained in that and encompassing that and be able to get out of the slump headspace or I just struck out, I have to sit around for 3 innings doing absolutely nothing until I get my one chance to redeem myself. So DHing is not for everyone. It'll be interesting to see how he adjusts to doing that full time, if they start to sneak in some third base, some first base for him as the season goes on. But for now, not a good start from a team that a lot is expected of them. At least other people are expecting a lot from them. I have them as a 500 team, so this isn't terrible. But my big upsetting point of this whole opening week is the entire AL Central is 2-4. None of them look good. The Tigers, I give them credit for kind of putting up a fight against the Dodgers, but they got swept by the Dodgers before taking 2 of 3 from the Mariners, which was good bounce back by them. But it would have been nice to have seen a young team like that come out against the reigning World Series champs and dominate. That didn't happen. They didn't even need to take one. I know they blew one game. Their closer blew one game, which happens. But that bullpen is young and inexperienced. They got to figure out their roles, and someone's got to lock that down. So hopefully they can improve their young team. But it'll be interesting to see where they go from here, especially after losing Torres. But the one good thing coming out of there is Spencer Torkelson, looking good so far this year. I believe he started last year well before falling off the cliff. So hopefully he can keep that up and keep the spot that he has earned so far after a great spring and a good start to the season. But the Twins were swept by the Cardinals. They then took 2 of 3 from the White Sox, which isn't saying much as they were the worst team in the league last year. Their pitching is interesting because it should be better than they've played so far. Ober got rocked. Lopez didn't have a fantastic first start. He had a better second start. Joe Ryan looked okay. Simeon Woods Richardson was Simeon Woods Richardson, which is just like an average pitcher. So it'll be interesting to see if their pitching can bounce back, if their offense can stay healthy, as Royce Lewis is already on the injured list after getting injured. I believe it was a hamstring pull in spring training. So they got to get healthy. They got to stay healthy. They got to perform and not just beat up on the bad teams, although they got swept by the Cardinals, who you could say is a bad team. But moving on to the Guardians, they got swept by the Padres. Like I said with the Padres pitching was great. So I can't really fault them there. The Guardians did take 2 of 3 from the Royals, which is a good help. You want those division wins whenever you can get them. So really nice they were able to take 2 or 3 from the Royals. But the Royals are having kind of the same issue as the Twins, whereas their pitching isn't great. The Royals themselves, they took 1 of 3 from the Brewers, like I said, and did the same with the Guardians. So it was interesting to see the Royals come out and put up 11 on the Brewers after the Yankees put up, I believe it was 36 combined runs in that first series, and then really not be able to get anything done offensively. I mean, Freddie Peralta, who is a great pitcher, but not a guy who saves his pitches. He's a guy that will not pitch deep into games because he throws a lot of balls trying to get people to strike out. He was able to go 8 innings, striking out 8 in a win against the Royals. So, they have a team. They're a team that needs offense, and they need to not kick themselves when they're down. And they need to be able to take their walks when they're coming. And hats off to Peralta for being able to do that. That's really the next step for Peralta becoming a better pitcher or a top tier pitcher. But you want to, if you're a Royals fan, you want to be able to get that sorted away. But then the White Sox, they took 1 of 3 from the Angels and 1 of 3 from the Twins. That's kind of what's expected from them. You want to see that youthful energy that's been shown come out, and that's really all you can hope for if you're a Chicago White Sox fan, is just the young kids come out and play, they bring the energy, and hopefully that gets you into some wins and into some developments and some positive signs. But moving out of the AL Central into the AL West, the Astros are 2-4. Like I said when I went through the Giants, they got swept by them. They did take 2 or 3 from the Mets, which was promising. But the Mets, for all their additions and hoopla about them in the offseason, they don't have pitching much of anything, especially after Frankie Montas and Sean Manaea went down. So, taking 2 or 3 from the Mets, and good job, pat in the back, but then you got swept by the Giants, so you kind of just immediately just ruined that momentum. Their bats are getting off to a slow start, the Astros, and I don't think their pitching is fantastic. Framber Valdez being more of a pitch-to-contact guy will give up duds like he did against the Giants. I believe he went like 4 or 5 innings, gave up 5 runs, and took the loss. So, when you have pitchers like that aren't going to strike out a lot of guys, you need your defense to be on top of it. You need your offense to be able to put up consistent runs, and the Astros are not able to do that so far, and that's why they are where they're at right now. The Athletics, they split with the Mariners and then were swept by the Cubs, so they are 2-4. The big thing about their series with the Cubs, after they looked pretty good against the Mariners in that split, the Cubs beat them by a combined 26 runs. That's not good. That's a lot of runs to be given up. And for a team that spent so much money in the offseason on pitching, they need their pitching to pitch better. Springs got roughed up by the Cubs. I believe that was on the 2nd. So he needs to pitch more like the pitcher from his first start where he dominated. And I do think that they still need like 2 or 3 starters. So we'll see what happens there. But their offense needs to hit more for them to win more games, and that's just how it's going to be. And then My last team dud performances was the Nationals. They were 1-5. They were swept by the Blue Jays. They took 1 of 3 from the Phillies, which was not the Mackenzie Gore phenomenal start, unfortunately, for the Nationals and for Gore. But just really looking like a team that doesn't know how to win, which is fair. Their young players look young, meaning that they're not putting up great stats. I mean, I believe James Wood has a home run, but him, Cruz, they're batting under 200. They're not, being what they're supposed to out of the gate, which is perfectly fine. This year is about developing those guys, plus guys like Garcia and C.J. Abrams, who is playing well. Abrams is, but you want to see the young guys continue to perform, especially in the rotation. You want to see continued growth. But even then, this team isn't supposed to be White Sox bad. So a 1-5 record start the season, not what you want to see. Before I move forward, I do want to address the elephant in the room, and that is the Torpedo Bats. Now, if you aren't aware of this situation, the Torpedo Bats is just a development in wooden bat technology where you take the excess wood from the end of the bat, and you just move it down a little bit. People were saying that it's by the label, which is, if you're looking at a bat like this, the label's in the middle towards where it gets thin. If you're hitting off the label, you're gonna be breaking a lot of bats. Like if you remember, Mariano Rivera's cutter used to always hit that label on the bat, and that's why people broke their bats and soft ground balls happened. No, it's moving more wood kind of to the lower part of the sweet spot of the bat. The Yankees made this very popular because, one, they're the Yankees, and two, they scored 36 runs on the Brewers over the weekend, and they have 4 batters that use the Torpedo Bat in Anthony Volpe, who hit 2 homers over the weekend, and another one on the second. They have Jazz Chisholm uses it. He hit, I believe it was 3 homers over the weekend. They have Cody Bellinger uses it. He hit a home run, and Paul Goldschmidt also used it, hit a home run. So with that, the national attention the Yankees get in general, it became sort of a overblown thing. I mean, if you read all the stories and all the quotes from guys, I will say a lot of teams have come out and said, a lot of players as well, that they're now ordering them kind of as a proof of concept for something that's been out for a year or two. Giancarlo Stanton used it last year. Cody Bellinger is quoted as saying he first used it with the Cubs. Plenty of other players have been saying they played it, like I said, when we went through standout performers for individuals. Ellie De La Cruz used it for the first time. Francisco Lindor uses it. I'm trying to remember. The Twins, their catcher Ryan Jeffers uses it. So it's not a unknown thing. It is out there. I'm sure you will start seeing more of it now that the Yankees have, like I said, proven the concept. But I don't think, first of all, it was proved legal. The rules on the bat within the MLB player handbook or whatever it's called only dictate the maximum length, which I believe is 42 inches, and the maximum width of the bats. And then the maximum, I don't actually know if there's a maximum weight on the bats. I believe there is. But those are the only restrictions on the bat. There's no it needs to be shaped like this, it needs to be shaped like that. So honestly, after reading it, I was looking at it why didn't someone come up with this sooner? And why did it take a Ivy League physicist that the Yankees had on staff to point this out to baseball players, baseball teams, and get it implemented? I just think that that's excessive and a little insane. But it's working for the Yankees. It's working for some other players. So we'll see where we go from there. If anything big happens with it, I will obviously address it. But I kind of think it's a non-story at this point. It's just an innovation that's working. That's not a problem. Any team can use it, and that's just that. It's so much more about being able to distribute the width of the bat to where you hit the ball most. Like the Yankees players were talking about, it's about, specifically in the situation of Anthony Volpe's Torpedo Bat, he basically was told that he was hitting the ball in the sweet spot. Never. That he had like no hits, no contact on the sweet spot of the bat. So they took the extra wood that was on the sweet spot and moved it down to where he did normally make contact with the ball, and that's what the bat he uses now. That's his torpedo bat. And they did something similar for everyone else, and that's the process of how they get torpedo bats. You can't, like, you can just order a standard torpedo bat, but that's not going to be what's best for you. What's best for you is going to be if you go in, or if they do the research to find out, where are you making the most contact with the ball? Okay, well, if the bat tip is here, you're making the most contact here, well, that's where the sweet spot is. But you're making the most contact here, okay, well, we're going to move it down. You're making the most contact over here, okay, well, we're going to move it up. That's more of what the whole bat conversation should be about, and that's also why some of these guys that are saying that they want to order it, it might take a little bit longer for them to get their bat, the one that works best for them. And also, as Aaron Judge came out and said, it's not for everyone. Guys have been using normal bats for as long as baseball has existed, and they've done very well with it. So it's not going to be for everyone. It's just a new tool in the toolbox, and that's kind of where I stand on that. But our last segment of the day, we're going to look forward to this next weekend and slate of games coming up over the next 7 days. This weekend, something to look out for. The Dodgers are at the Phillies. That should be a good potential postseason matchup right there. Early on in the season, some great pitching matchups as well. And then you have Toronto and the Mets playing at the Mets this weekend. That's really interesting because there have already been rumors about Vladimir Guerrero Jr. potentially going to the Mets in the offseason. And then as well, it's two teams trying to make it to the postseason, make it back to the postseason, prove to their fans and to their players, especially in the case of the Blue Jays, that they can do what they need for them. So that'll be interesting to see this weekend. And then you also have just a fun series for me. The next two are fun series for me. The Padres at the Cubs. I just think that's really interesting because I like the Cubs lineup. I think they have enough pitching. If you watched my preseason predictions episode, I have the Cubs winning the Central. I think that's where they'll end up. And the Padres off for their hot start going into Chicago, trying to keep it up. Just really interested to see if the Padres can keep it up against the good Chicago Cubs team. And then also the Orioles at the Royals. Gunnar Henderson's coming back, I believe, on the 3rd. So he'll be playing in this series. So it'll be nice to see two of the top young shortstops competing against each other, as well as two teams that made the playoffs last year as wildcard teams being able to dish it out. But moving into the weekdays of next week, I have the Yankees at the Tigers. That'll be interesting to see the Detroit pitching, as I believe Scooble lines up to pitch against the Yankees, against the pitching of the Yankees in general. Detroit's young lineup against the Yankees vet pitchers, and the Yankees vet pitchers against the young or established good pitching of the Tigers. And then the Rangers at the Cubs. Again, similar to the Padres at the Cubs, I really am interested to see Texas go into Chicago and see what they can do. Not that I think that Chicago is just a proving grounds for any team out there. I just think that those are two fun clubs that you'll be able to watch if you can catch those games. And just two clubs trying to prove themselves this year. You also have, that's Monday to Wednesday, by the way, both those last two. The Yankees at Detroit is Monday through Wednesday, and Texas at Cubs is Monday through Wednesday. The next series I want to talk about is the Phillies at the Braves, Tuesday to Thursday, so they'll have Monday off and then play Tuesday to Thursday. That is really interesting for the pure fact that Atlanta needs to get back into it, and they need to turn this around. 3 games against a rival at home early in the season, great way to do that. Build some momentum. Hopefully the Braves have a good weekend. They bring that into the week, and they're able to do some damage against the Phillies. And then my last series to look forward to next week, the Blue Jays at the Boston Red Sox. Again, some nice early division action where the Red Sox can try to bounce back. Hopefully they have a good weekend, leads into the week. And then at home, they can take on their division opponents in the Blue Jays. And they'll get 4 games Monday to Thursday to possibly do that. But thank you guys so much for joining me. That has been my episode on the opening week of the season. Please, if you made it this far, thank you so much. Leave me a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe if you enjoyed. Thank you, guys. I will see you next week.